From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Aaliyah Papes, filling in as host for Mitch Wertlieb. It's Thursday, October 2nd, and here are today's headlines. Both of Vermont's U.S. senators say they will continue to vote against a Republican short-term funding bill until GOP leaders agree to negotiate over key healthcare issues. The stalemate has resulted in a federal government shutdown. Senator Bernie Sanders spoke on CNN. He says the budget dispute, coupled with, quote, unconstitutional actions by the Trump administration this year, has created a toxic political atmosphere in Washington.
I think probably as dangerous as any time since the Civil War period. And I think what the American people are saying, this is not business as usual. We've got to stand up, we've got to fight back.
Senator Peter Welch tells Vermont Public that Democrats want GOP leaders to commit to extending premium subsidies for Affordable Care Act health plans.
We want some assurance that if we make an agreement, the agreement will stick.
Both Welch and Sanders voted against another effort to pass the spending plan on Wednesday. Meanwhile, on the state level, the Scott administration says a prolonged shutdown of the federal government could hurt Vermont's economy. This comes as a new revenue report indicates signs of weakness. State Budget Commissioner Adam Gresham says the federal shutdown is taking place when the Vermont economy is showing signs of slowing down. According to the state's new report, overall revenues for the general fund were 7% below projections in August. The income tax and meals and rooms tax were the biggest underperforming sources. Gresham tells Vermont Public the ripple effects of a lengthy shutdown could make matters worse.
Certainly that will have an impact on the Vermont economy. So we're really not in a position for even a minor disruption.
Gresham says he's also concerned by the drop in Canadian tourism over the summer. Immigration advocates are speaking out after federal agents arrested 9 construction workers in Hardwick last week. They say the action is unlike anything the state has seen since the Trump administration launched its mass deportation campaign. The advocacy group Migrant Justice says at least 80 immigrant workers have been arrested and detained in Vermont over the last 8 months. But spokesperson Will Lambeck says last Friday's incident was different.
What's unique about this is that the arrests happened over a geographic region. So immigration agents clearly had information about people's vehicles and were tracking them, surveilling them.
Lambeck says the 9 individuals were arrested during different traffic stops over the course of the morning. They all resided in Hardwick and came from Colombia, Ecuador, and Nicaragua. One person was released the same day. The others were transferred to an out-of-state facility on Tuesday. In another immigration case, a federal appeals court is considering whether a judge was right to release a Tufts graduate student and a Columbia University graduate student who lives in Vermont from custody as their cases play out. As WBUR's Walter Wuthman reports, 2 of the 3 judges on the panel were appointed by President Trump.
Rumeysa Ozturk was picked up on the streets of Somerville in March, and Mohsen Mahdawi was detained a month later in Vermont after completing his naturalization interview. Speaking to supporters on the courthouse steps in New York, Mahdawi said they were targeted for their support of Palestine.
We said it before and we say it again, that our love for humanity is much larger and much greater than any threats that are trying to silence us.
The government's lawyers, who were asking the appeals court to throw out the lower court's decision, faced intense questioning. The judges did not immediately issue a ruling. For the New England News Collaborative, I'm Walter Wuthman.
Bow hunting season is underway in Vermont. It's the first of 2 parts. This archery session runs through November 14th. A second one runs from December 1st through December 15th. Licensed hunters can take a buck or antlerless deer during archery season. There is a 1 legal buck annual limit in Vermont. Hunters can take up to 4 total deer during the season. Coming up, extreme weather is hard for any community to deal with, and reporter Howard Weiss-Tisman tells us Vermont's town governing system can make things even more complex. That's after this. Vermont's system of town government is not really set up to deal with the effects of climate change. Flooding has hit the state hard in recent years, and it doesn't respect municipal borders. Our small towns, with their mostly volunteer boards, are left to navigate complicated decisions that affect surrounding communities. Vermont Public's Howard Weiss-Tisman reports on how the state can rethink the way municipal decisions are made as a warming climate threatens the region with more flooding.
So we've got Hardwick, Wolcott, Morristown, a small piece of Hyde Park.
Seth Jensen is well acquainted with all of the towns that lie along the Lamoille River in northern Vermont.
Georgia, Milton, and then a small piece of Colchester.
Jensen works for the Lamoille County Planning Commission. He was hired back in 2011, about a month before Tropical Storm Irene brought historic flooding to Vermont. And ever since then, he's been helping the towns in Lamoille County see the bigger picture.
Something at this point might have an impact, positive or negative, upstream or downstream. And I think we're evolving in our understanding of that and really still coming to fully grasp that.
Jensen is now leading an effort to do a full engineering study of the Lamoille River, along with its tributaries and floodplains. The Planning Commission won a $230,000 federal grant to do the work. But beyond that, he says he needs to have buy-in from every town along the Lamoille.
To really get the fine-grained understanding of the flood dynamics and the potential alternatives, the local community is still really critical.
There have been 22 federal disaster declarations in Vermont due to flooding in the past 15 years. That's about double what the state faced in the previous few decades. Jane Lazorchak, who heads the state's Climate Action Office, says Vermont still has a long way to go to tackle climate change on more than a town-by-town level.
I think we are at a tipping point in our state where we really need to think about the capacity at municipal levels and what makes sense, understanding that disaster recovery is becoming more of the norm.
Lazorchak's office just released a report that's a roadmap for how the state should adapt to climate change. And one of its lead priorities, she says, is coming up with ways to get towns to work together more often on flood resiliency. That might look like several towns pitching in money to restore floodplains in their shared watershed. It's a heavy lift, Lazorchak says, trying to convince small towns to invest time and money into projects that don't always directly benefit their own tax-paying residents.
We put a lot of pressure, a lot of work on at the municipal level in Vermont, and most municipalities in Vermont don't even have paid staff. And I think this is just the next iteration about how we evolve as a state to think about and take care of communities more holistically than town by town.
In southeastern Vermont, the Windham Regional Commission recently organized a meeting with 4 towns in the Deerfield River watershed. One of the biggest challenges is finding money to take on projects, according to Commission Director Chris Campany. The conversations come at a time when the federal government is making major cuts to how it supports communities after disasters. Still, Campany says, towns have no other option but to start working together.
It's going to keep getting worse. And so it's up to the towns to act because there's really nobody else coming to save them.
Vermont was spared major statewide flooding this summer. So in the absence of spending time and money reacting to a disaster, Campany says now is the best time to prepare for the next one. For Vermont Public, I'm Howard Weiss-Tisman.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Bob Kinzel, Pete Hirschfeld, Mary Angish, and the New England News Collaborative. Today's episode was produced by Adia Golston and edited by Stephanie Colombini. And our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Aaliyah Papes. Talk to you tomorrow.